Alright guys, today is Sunday. We got the long run on the calendar today, and I've really been looking forward to this and testing these out on a 2+ hour effort because the Rebel V3, that was one of the main complaints people had with that shoe, is that you couldn't take it for long runs. And so with the additional stack that we're getting in this guy, we got 30 millimeters in the heel, 24 in the forefoot versus 27.5 and 21.5 in the Rebel V3. This guy should be a little bit better for longer efforts. So that's what we're going to be testing this morning. I am not planning on doing any sort of pace hard workout today. I'm really not feeling it. I think I'm the last person in my family to get this little cold that's been going around, so feeling a tad under the weather. And like I said yesterday in my recovery video, go watch that one if you haven't yet, but the idea with marathon training for me is this concept from Arthur Lydiard: train, don't strain. So when your body's already feeling a little bit stressed, that's not when you amp it up. So today we're going to do a relaxed 18 to 22 miler. I was initially planning on 22, and that's probably still the goal. But if I'm not feeling it toward the end, today is not a pain cave day. I did 2 hard workout long runs the past 2 weeks. So today can be a little bit of a more relaxed aerobic effort if needed. And I can also cap at 18 if needed. Shout out to these Hoka Orlux, by the way. So that is the plan today, and in terms of what we're looking at with these guys, I'm going to be testing out the grip. Ooh, we got a little bit of slick here, look at that. Oh man, I am not too optimistic because it's a little bit wet out here today. So we're going to be testing out the grip, we're going to be testing out how the cushion does over a longer effort, and maybe I'll throw in, I don't know, a few surges of marathon pace here and there, but we're going to be looking out for the B word, the B phrase. Do they bottom out? And I never had that issue with the Rebel V3, but I only took them up to 16 miles, not 18 to 22. So that's what we're going to be looking for today. How's the grip? How's the stack do over a longer effort? And in the forefoot here, are we going to get any of that bottoming out action? All right, guys, let's get into it. So I ended up getting 23 miles. I guess I came in at an 8 flat pace. Exactly, that's funny. 3 hours and 6 minutes. Now, I wasn't planning to get 23. I was actually came up on mile 18 or mile 16 to 18 and felt good enough to push to 22. So I did that, and then I overshot the loop. So I got a bonus mile. Came in at 23, which is actually a good thing because the Jack Daniels plan that I've been following has some 23-mile long run workouts coming up. And I always like to cover a certain distance at a slower aerobic pace before I do it at a long run. So I'm glad that I got this 23 miles aerobic paced in today. And I think that's probably my longest run since the Charlotte Marathon in 2022. And I think that might be my first time hitting 3 weeks of 20+ milers in a row. So wasn't the prettiest, got kind of grindy in the teens, but we got it done. So I'm gonna get some recovery quickly, some fuel, and then we'll pop back out here to give you all the deets on these. And look at that, we did get some mud and muck. The rain's not too bad. All right guys, 23 miles or 3 hours in the Rebel V3 here. Now that wasn't a great fast ripping performance, but it was an honest effort, and runs like this are the building blocks of long run training for me. And as I said, I haven't hit 20+ miles for 3 weeks straight, I don't think ever. Sometimes it's good to focus on these distance PRs in training as well, racking up 100-mile weeks or whatever your next mileage level is to hit that next level of aerobic fitness. Now, before we get into it today, it is the Super Bowl Sunday. By the time you're watching this, the Chiefs already would have won, so I should give you my prediction about who's going to win. I just did, but I think Chiefs 24-21, Mahomes Super Bowl MVP again. And with that, it's only right that we do a little athletic beer recovery today. All right, guys, one sip. Everybody knows the rules. So this is the Athletic Golden Dawn non-alcoholic, great post-run recovery. 2.5 glugs. Minimal spillage. Anyway, to the shoe. Now, there's been a lot of discourse or discussion, commentary in the comment section this week about minimalist shoes and whether the Rebel V4 is a minimal shoe. Now, that's one of these emotional words I'm coming to realize, like when I say soft or firm, or when I bend a shoe in half, people are attached to some of these things when it comes to their running shoes. And with the word minimal or any of these descriptive adjectives, context is everything. And what we are comparing these shoes to is everything. Now, it's funny because I compared this to the Convara in my 20-mile double day test with the shoe, and someone commented, that's not a great comparison because the Convara is a much lower stack shoe, which maybe that used to be true, but in the Convara 14, the current edition of that shoe, that's coming in at 31 millimeters in the heel. This guy is 30 millimeters in the heel. So this might be the lowest stack shoe from any mainstream brand right now. Topo Cyclone is a little bit lower. Rebel V3, the previous version of this, was also a little bit lower, 27.5. 30 millimeters is, you're not going to find anything much lower than that from a mainstream brand in their performance training lineup. Now, if you look at something like the Nike Downshifter or one of those sub $100 shoes that you might be able to get on a bargain with a really firm traditional standard EVA foam, maybe some of those are below 30 millimeters, but nothing in the core running market is really in that stack range. So regardless of whether you consider the shoe minimal or not, based on the data, based on the market, the Rebel is on the lower stack end of the spectrum in 2024. Now, if we compare it to what I ran in 10 years ago, back in Lowell, Massachusetts, when I used to do my jogs from home to Mill City Fitness, probably 1 to 2 miles, I was running in the Nike free runs. If you guys remember those, I actually had 2 different pairs of those that I went through. One of them I took to Peru. That's one of the only countries I've been outside the US. It was this beautiful purple pair. Then I had another blue and yellow pair that I used for gym and a bunch of other stuff. But those had a sock fitting upper, really similar to this actually, except it was one piece. This has a gusseted tongue, and it had those slits in the bottom of the midsole. I'll see if I can dig up a picture online, but that's a shoe that I could definitely fold in half. But it had those slits in the midsole, so it was really flexible. And I don't know what the drop and stack figures were on those, but they must have been below 20 millimeters or below 30 millimeters, closer to that 20 millimeter range. And that was what was common on the market back then. That was the time when most of the market was trending towards either barefoot shoes or lower stack shoes. And now, 10 years later, we got Hoka, who popularized the taller stack heights, and that's trickled down across the market, even to the most lightweight shoe in New Balance's lineup. Now, another key factor that we haven't discussed yet is these foams. This is a 20% PEBA-based foam, and PEBA versus traditional standard EVA is a much lighter compound. It offers more of your energy back to you, so as you're running, you don't have to use as much energy to sustain the same pace. And another benefit is it's more resistant to temperature changes. But all that's to say is in 2024, you can make a taller stack shoe that feels a little bit more minimal than what's on the market, but that is still the same weight or lower weight than what we used to run in 10 years ago. And that's pretty cool. And that's why after this 23-mile run today, I am absolutely loving the Rebel V4. I'm not going to go ahead and give it the crown just yet. I did give the Rebel V3 my crown for 2023. That was my absolute favorite shoe of last year. But this is a contender for sure so far of the favorite shoe that I've run in. Now, within the first 10 miles of that run, I was thinking to myself, this shoe is so great. It's the right amount of cushioning. The foam has softened up a ton. I know in my first run in this, I compared it to the Adidas Audi Zero SL, and the standard EVA in that Audi Zero SL also takes some time to break in, but that is a much stiffer shoe in general than this. This did require about 30 miles for me to get a much softer character. Now it's broken in a little bit. It's like a baseball glove that's worn nicely. It feels like it's conformed to my foot, and as I picked up the pace in certain sections, I wasn't doing any real workout style efforts today, but I felt it give me some pop back. And no matter where I was in that run, even at the 23rd mile, I did a little bit of pace pickups here and there, and it still felt like the shoe could give me some of my energy back, and I wasn't sinking into it too much. So if we're thinking about that B phrase, bottoming out, did the Rebel V4 bottom out? No, it did not bottom out for me. So I'm super impressed at this. I think it's probably that combination of PEBA and EVA that does it. EVA for me has actually been a pretty decent long run foam, and I've used that Audi Zero SL as a long run shoe as well, and I never felt like it bottomed out. I did feel like it lost some of the pop toward the end of the run, but that's what you're going to get from the combination here. You get the pop from the PEBA and then some more of that structure and support from the EVA. Now, if we think about the past shoes that I've been running long runs in over the last few weeks, I did the Alpha Fly when I had a horrible 18-miler down at the ATT or the Tobacco Trail in Cary. The next week, I did the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. That one was okay, but I did a workout in there and it didn't feel like it had the bite and aggression, and that PEBA just felt a little mushy toward the end of that run. Now, then last week I did the Tier Valkyrie Elite Carbon. Absolutely loved that thing. That's one of my favorite racers that I've tried, up there with the Hoka Cielo X1 so far this year. And this week we're coming to this. So again, if we think about minimal and what that means, all of those shoes are above 35 millimeters. You got the Alpha Fly, that's a 40 millimeter racer. You got the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, that's sitting at 36, 37, 38, depending on how you measure it. You got the Tier Valkyrie Elite Carbon, again, a 40 millimeter racer. And this week we're coming into this shoe, which is gonna be one of the lighter ones, but also one of the lower stack ones. And so with that, I was checking for how protective does it feel? And bottoming out and protection are two different things for me. So while this did feel consistent throughout the entirety of the run, it did not provide the same protection at all as any of those shoes. So while this is a viable shoe for a 23-mile long run and it felt fairly good, I am probably not going to be reaching for this again and again and again for 22, 23 miles for the rest of the training block. And also, I'm assuming my recovery after this run is going to be a little bit more challenging than if I used a plated shoe, because my legs did have to work a lot more to turn over. And that is something else that I felt while running in this shoe. Even 10 to 14 miles in, not even all the way at the end, I felt my calves were working a ton. And that's a little bit of a weak area for me. My left calf in particular is a little bit underdeveloped when it comes to strength. And this shoe, the Rebel V3, Brooks Hyperion Max, these lower stack non-plated shoes, they tend to expose that. Homeboy is whipping. He's trying to get somewhere. Now those are good law-abiding citizens, thank you. The drag racing threw me off a little bit, but this definitely does not have the same amount of support and structure as those shoes that I was running in before, and that was particularly felt in my lower legs. So with that, I would not attempt to do a workout over 16 miles personally in this shoe unless I really wanted to challenge myself and use that to build leg strength. And I also probably wouldn't pull this to do another 2.5+ hour long run unless, again, I really wanted to challenge myself. Now, there's a reason that plated shoes exist, and it's exactly for this purpose. If you don't want something as harsh as a carbon fiber plate, that's where the plastic plated shoes come into play. Now, there's one thing that I didn't mention yesterday in my recovery tips video that I was thinking about a lot since I filmed that, and that's running in a shoe like this is another form of strength work. So we often think about strength as going to the gym, doing flexibility, doing push-ups, doing body weight workouts, but strength can be incorporated within our normal running routine as well. So the example that I gave yesterday in that video was pushing Reezy Boy in the stroller up these hills in my neighborhood, which I can get 500 feet of elevation gain in a 10 or 12 mile run, which is pretty wild. And running in a low stack shoe like this, low stack compared to what's on the market, is another way to strengthen our legs a little bit more than if we were running in the 1080, the More V5, the SC Trainer V2, any one of these more cushioned shoes in New Balance's lineup. Now, in terms of the fit, another thing that I wanted to look out for today was heel slipping. How was the lockdown? Because that's something that I've heard issues about from some of you guys with these shoes, especially the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. That was an issue. The lockdown on this thing is absolutely fantastic. I was giving it a little grief for the roomy upper and how the upper fit a little bit weird on first run, but since then it's been super nice. There's a lot of room in the toe box to spread out the feet, but not too much, and I don't get that rubbing on the left side that I can get in some Saucony and Nike shoes. So great job on the upper here from New Balance. And then the other thing is in the back heel lockdown, there's absolutely no slipping whatsoever, and it's just the right amount of padding back here. Now, in terms of the grip, it was pretty solid. I wasn't slipping anywhere, and there's tons of hills here. Like I mentioned, I felt great going up hills, and I did pick it up to maybe 7 flat pace in some sections on the last mile too. And while I wasn't going all out or even close to half marathon effort, I did feel like my feet was pretty planted on the wet pavement. So that's a big improvement from V3 of the shoe. The wet weather grip is pretty solid. Now, whether it's as good as a Puma grip or Continental, probably not. I'll have to do a wet weather head to head, but it is an improvement from the previous iteration, and that's all we can ask for. Now, what I wanted to close out here was thinking about New Balance's lineup. Where does this fit in, especially with shoes like the 880 recently dropping and the Balos? What is the purpose of having a bunch of these similar overlapping shoes, right? If this can do 23 miles, why do we have the 880? Now, my hunch is the 880 is going to be a little bit firmer, a little bit more protective, and that fresh foam is not going to have the same amount of energy return as this. It's going to have a little bit more of a traditional feel. But for me personally, if that's the case, I would take this 10 out of 10 days of the week, because this so far can do everything that a standard daily trainer can. And then when it comes to the Balos, that shoe is going to have to absolutely blow me out of the water at a $200 price point for me to take that over this. Now, if it does offer a little bit more protection than this shoe, and it feels like I have to work a little bit less to turn over my legs, even without the plate at the end of that long run, that might warrant that premium. But a $60 premium, $200 for that shoe versus $140 for that is a pretty penny to pay. So as you can tell, so far I am highly impressed with the shoe. It's definitely not riding like a plated shoe, but it still is fun. It has a little bit more cushion and protection than V3, but it's still giving me that lightweight and fun character that I like so much in the previous version. All right, guys, as always, thank you for watching. A 100-mile review of this guy coming soon. I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.